Hey everybody, Zach DeLarno here with my law partner Logan Greenberg, and today we're doing a video on the different types of elder abuse or elder neglect cases out there and really what categories they fall under. So generally speaking, there's really two broad categories any type of elder abuse or elder neglect case can fall under. And the first is the more traditional category that most people think of, and that is medical malpractice. So if an elderly individual is usually being tended to and receiving some type of medical care, they may be in a nursing home or having home health care come out to the house. If a physician, or what is known under the law as a qualified healthcare provider, could be a nurse, basically breaches and does not provide the quote applicable standard of care, deviates below that standard of care of what's expected for them in tending to the individual, they may have committed medical malpractice. Now, that entails a whole lot of different procedural steps for us as the attorneys. Essentially, if that qualified healthcare provider is part of what's called the Patient's Compensation Fund, the PCF, they are covered and insured by the state of Louisiana. The case must go, or the claim must go in front of a panel of doctors. It's called the Medical Review Panel, and these a group of physicians, essentially make a call on whether that physician or whoever is the qualified healthcare provider, if they've committed medical malpractice, and once they make that determination, the case can then proceed through the courts. So that's one category, and a lot of it comes down again to were they receiving some type of health care treatment or health services, and was there a breach of duty in receiving that service?
That's right. So generally, anything that doesn't fall under that category of medical malpractice is really going to fall under a more broad category of what we might call a general negligence lawsuit. And the way to think about a general negligence lawsuit is really, the word negligence comes from the word neglect. And so it's really any type of situation where one party has neglected another and they shouldn't have. And what we see is this can involve anyone who is an organization that is involved in providing services to the elderly. And that's a broad range of companies, right? I mean, that can be companies involved in transport, companies involved in preparing meals, and then of course home healthcare attendants, or even just simple sitters, people that are just supposed to be with the person for a certain amount of time. And so those organizations all owe a basic duty to the elderly person that they're providing a service for. And when that company commits some sort of breach, so they breach that duty, that's when we're talking about now we have a case. The breach that's involved in these cases can be very simple. And so Zach and I have tried cases where someone is meant to be in the home with an elderly person. They are a sitter for 24 hours a day, and it turns out they were only in the home for half of the day, and something went wrong when they weren't there. Or it could be that they were there for 24 hours a day, but they were sleeping on the job and they should not have been. So it can really run a broad range of very simple behavior that breaches the duty they owe. And then of course the last thing to keep in mind in these cases is there's always going to need to be some sort of damage involved. And so whatever's their breach, whatever act of this person committed that's below the duty of care, it's going to basically have to create some sort of injury for the elderly person. So if you think that you may have an elderly neglect or abuse case and you're not sure which category it falls under and what your next steps are, please feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to talk to you about the situation and explain what your options are.